Morning.
The goal today is to finish spraying all of our Liberty Post on soybeans. We've got more to spray than just Liberty. I've got to move on to Enlist, but I'm going to be happy if I get our Liberty done. We've got good weather to do it. On top of some great weather to apply herbicides, the other good news is that we've only got 3 fields left, which shouldn't be too much of a burden. The bad news is that those 3 fields total over 500 acres, and to make things a little bit more complicated, Helena, the retailer where we pick up our hot loads in our tanker, they're planning on closing at noon today because it's Saturday, it's the weekend, it's the summer. They don't want to keep their employees working 7 days a week for eternity. Gotta let them go sometime. As everyone knows, a very productive day always starts with a full tank of fuel. Probably ought to check the oil in the Heggie too. I don't need the battery on to open the engine compartment cover, which is strange. Must be on a separate circuit, but I might as well do it while I'm down here. Gotta open the hood, kind of finagle your way back here to get to this. Looks good to me. Good sign when a nice broken engine's not using much oil. Now this is just cruel. Gonna need 2 hands, I think. Heggie's ready to rock and roll. We gotta go look at our tanker trailer real quick. Today was my first day beating the sun up in a long while, or at least since planting season. Haven't really had to work that hard since the weather's been so favorable, or at least have to work super early to get the job done. In a roundabout way, that goes back to our retailer Helena closing at noon today on Saturday. With the way the current job market is, if you don't let people get a break eventually and go spend time with their family or even just relax on their own, they're gonna find a job that lets them do it. It's one thing for me and my family who has direct ownership and profit from these farms to work 7-day weeks if we have to. It's another thing for someone who's just collecting a paycheck, and that's nothing against them. To be honest, I don't blame them one bit. I would not be nearly as motivated to work long, grueling hours and days on someone else's farm for a simple hourly pay or salary as I would if I actually had skin in the game. Completely different ball game when it's your crops and your livelihood as opposed to just checking the job boxes. I was not made aware of this until after we quit yesterday. We had a little bit of an incident with our 3-inch fill line. It must have sprung loose and drug against the ground here. You can see the inside of our wire reinforced 3-inch rubber tubing. I don't know if we've sprung a leak. I'm just gonna tape the heck out of it and hope that we didn't. If not, we're gonna be in trouble or looking for some kind of a patch. I would think that if you taped it good enough, it'd stay. This 3-inch pump, although very capable of moving a large amount of gallons per minute, I do not believe it actually puts out that much pressure. This tape will probably only stick to itself. This is plumber's tape, so if there's any job it's going to work on, it's this one. Whole roll of plumber's tape later, and that's as good as it's going to get. If this were the U.S. healthcare system, I'd say, here's your Band-Aid and Tylenol. That'll be $5,000. Chemical has been sitting overnight. I don't think that Liberty is prone to settling. That doesn't mean I shouldn't fire it up, though, and let it mix a little bit. I'll also start the semi for my brother-in-law. He's doing some tendering for me today on this nice Saturday. I'm under the impression that Liberty is kind of foamy when you start to mix it. I could be wrong, but I got my defoamer in case it is. Oh, that's an understatement. let's check a back compartment and see if it's foamy. Nope. So it's foamy just because I've got it agitating. There's your Liberty. Almost looks like diesel fuel. If only it were as cheap as diesel fuel. Farm diesel right now is like $3.30 a gallon delivered, I think. Could be wrong. Might be closer to $3. I haven't quoted it lately. A gallon of Liberty, you're probably looking at $50. I also don't know what it is either. Pricing is not the consideration right now. Spraying is. I'm gonna do one quick thing before we head west. I'm gonna run a tiny bit of this Liberty and Roundup mix through my boom. It's been sitting overnight. I've been told by very experienced operators that regardless of how good of a job you do cleaning out your corn herbicides that are very persistent in your plumbing and your tanks, when you leave it sit, even days after of spraying soybean herbicides, that Roundup in particular will pull things out of the plumbing that are stuck up in there. So I'm just going to run a little tiny bit of product out on the ground here for weed control. Make sure I get any Callisto or atrazine that might have broke free overnight out of the boom. That way when I start spraying beans, they don't show up absolutely cooked in about 4 or 5 days. I don't know how much to run through. I don't want to waste a bunch of product. Probably doesn't take that much to get anything that was set up in the boom out. We've got a leaky tip. The sprayer's not old enough to have a leaky tip. I'm headed about 40 miles to the west, taking me a little over an hour in the Hagee, I think. I'm only 20 minutes behind schedule, which is about 30 minutes ahead of my normal pace, meaning that I'm usually an hour behind schedule. So off to a good start. I usually account for a little bit of lost time, knowing myself. Early planted corn looks awfully green. It's gonna need a rain here soon. I just drove about 15 miles down a fairly congested country road normally, and I did not meet a single car coming or going. I don't think I'm gonna get much luckier than that today. It's not hard to tell you're right next to Lake Shelbyville based on the sheer number of boats I've met on already, and it's only 7 a.m. Summer's here. People got their boats out. Made it to Tower Hill. My tanker driver's nowhere to be seen, which is suspicious because I told him to leave about the same time I left, and he hasn't showed up yet, so hopefully he's not asleep still. Yeah, it's hard to find good help nowadays. At least you can fire people who aren't family. Nate's my brother-in-law, so I don't think I can fire him. That, and I most certainly need the help. I needed to change this leaky tip anyway, so I'll do that while I wait. Oh hey, there's my tanker right there. Perfect timing. As they say, if you talk poorly about someone, they have a tendency to show up. All right, that's fixed. For some reason, the neighbor cooked our beans right here. And I don't know, it almost appears to me like I'm not even planted over far enough and he's still got a row. Oh well, no big deal. Does anyone else hate thistles? I'm not a fan of thistles, and there's a lot of them right here on this end. I hope they enjoy a good old dose of Roundup and Liberty. Nate's got the tanker turned around, he's headed back this way. I'm gonna go ahead and load up the sprayer with my first batch. Let's hope that this hose does not have a hole in it that's not contained, because we are really going to be SOL if that's the case. We're loaded up. Time to creep up to the starting line. Actually, I've got to do one last thing that I forgot about. We're awfully far west compared to our normal area. We're running an RTK radio on our receiver. We need to switch radio networks to a closer tower. Once you get so far away from the tower you're connected to, it loses its efficacy. I've got the tower list on my phone. We connect to Jones Switch, which is just south of Mattoon, really close to us. And over here, probably want to do Finley, maybe? We go network ID 4010. Frequency 63.2750. Right? Okay. Okay. I'm not sure if this is closer enough or not. I'm also not an expert if you can't tell. So we're getting 50% of the radio data. A little bit of noise. Talk about an exclusive club. RTK not authorized because my serial number is not in their list at their system. So that's probably not an Alliance tractor tower. You'd think that RTK would be unilateral across the board for all companies to share, but we'll figure something out. I flipped through my settings and found a tower that worked and also let me connect. So we're good to go on RTK. We are finally off. These beans over here at Tower Hill look pretty good. They are a Bex 3997 or maybe 3995 Extend Flex beans. We're spraying 36 ounces of Liberty or glufosinate, 32 ounces of Roundup or glyphosate, and 2 more ounces of Zidua SC to provide some residual if we get a rain here in the next 3 or 4 weeks. When I got comfortable with spraying these beans yesterday, I pretty much made the decision that driving down the rows and straddling them is probably the best short-term solution. I don't think I'll be able to do this come fungicide time because the beans will be too big. For now though, as long as I do a diligent job keeping track of my auto steer line and steering, I shouldn't have any issues saving some beans, which may get run over at some point in the future. However, for now, they provide quality vegetative coverage, which should choke out weeds. That's one part about farming that a gardener wouldn't really understand. Sometimes to make things better, you gotta destroy a few crops in the process, especially soybeans. We'll run a lot of these over come fungicide time. Currently, we are solely applying herbicides for weed control. The Liberty and the Roundup are controlling any actively growing broadleaf and grass weeds out there without hurting our soybeans because they do have a genetic tolerance to those two products. The Zidua SC that we're putting in is the opposite. It is to help protect against future weeds that have yet to germinate. It's a group 15 pyroxsulfone. If I pronounce that right, I may not have. We used 3 1/4 ounces pre-plant. It held really good if you can't tell by how clean some of these fields are. Putting a little bit more in to get us home. Once the beans get canopy, we don't have to worry about it. I gotta put this camera down so I don't run over a pole. There's probably 7 or 8 poles in a row there. Out of the 8 poles, let's say, I hit every one but the last one. And it was off the road, so if I hit that one, that would have definitely been my fault. I've become less afraid of using my boom breakaways. That's why they're on there. You just use those outside sections. You got maybe 10 foot there that's spring loaded. As long as you don't hit something hard enough, your boom should pop back into place once you get around the object. And of course, that's assuming that the object is well constructed and you don't knock it over, which could happen. There's 200 acres in the bag. 77 acres on this south field. With the power lines I went around, I averaged 20.3 gallons an acre, which is pretty good. That's only 1% heavy on volume. All of our Liberty is mixed for a 20 gallon per acre target. I set the sprayer to 19.7 gallons to make sure I don't over apply and have to bill a bunch of extra Liberty out. Needless to say, this has been a fairly long drive. Not only did we start at our farthest southwest farm, I'm headed to our farthest northeast farm. I don't know the actual distance on the road between these two farms. If I had to speculate, it's probably somewhere between 50 and 60 miles. That leads me to my next point. Although I accounted for my field productivity very well with some minimal travel time, I had not really penciled out the 2.5 hours of road travel in my morning plan to get that almost 600 acres sprayed before Helena closes at noon. Or I guess I don't have to quit at noon, but I need to get my last load picked up. So I've had to call an audible, seeing as it's already 11:13, and I'm still 20 minutes away from the farm where I need to load to send the truck back. I'm going to meet my tanker at Helena because he's got a little bit of product left on there. Helena is actually on the path of travel, or one of the paths of travel to the farm I'm going on, so it's not out of the way that much. I'm gonna fill the rest in the sprayer, do some quick math to see how much chemical I need to spray this next 330 acres, and then I'm just gonna have them load right there. Helena should be able to go home by noon if I do this in a timely fashion. Not trying to keep them on the hook all day. Some of the farmers out there may be scratching their head wondering why I'm so pressed to get this Liberty sprayed when we've got dry weather, probably plenty of opportunities to get in the field over the next 2 weeks. I'll talk about that once we get this all taken care of at Helena, because like I said, I want to let them go home. I think I'm the only person they're waiting on. Alrighty, we're at Helena. Nate's parked here to my west. I'm gonna hop out and load the sprayer real quick and go from there. We've got about 60 acres of product in the tank. This will slow me down for the last 10 miles of road travel. It's a price I'm willing to pay to make sure the guys at Helena can go home and enjoy their afternoon. I just filled up for the third time on this big 300+ acre farm. I'll have to probably fill up 4 more times, I guess, to finish this up. The size of this farm is nice, except for the fact that there's not really any good frontage for loading the sprayer over the ditch. I need a much longer hose than I have now, so I may be looking into a hose reel for next season. I don't know how I tie that into my tanker, but I'm sure you can figure it out. Might require some welding. As you can see, I'm driving back to the other end to start spraying because I'm tired of running stuff over on one end. I pretty much ran the same path down to go to the tanker every time. It's really the only way to get it done. Because I didn't have time to map all of these farms ahead of farming them for the first time this season, I didn't get a chance to get all the auto steer lines created and shared between all the monitors, meaning that I don't have the planner's auto steer line on the sprayer. So I just opted to spray it at the angle and be done with it. I mentioned earlier that I had good reason for wanting to get our Liberty applied to all of our XtendFlex soybeans today at the latest. All things considered, I have 2 motivating factors for wanting to apply the rest of our Liberty by the end of the day today. Firstly is that after we switch from spraying Liberty on our XtendFlex beans, we're going to move to our Enlist beans to start spraying Enlist or 2,4-D. Enlist beans are also tolerant to Liberty or glufosinate. The reverse is not true. XtendFlex beans, although tolerant to Liberty, are not tolerant to Enlist. The simple fact is that I do not have to clean out my sprayer going from Liberty application on XtendFlex to Enlist beans. I could spray Liberty on the Enlist beans if I wanted to, but we choose to spray the Enlist. It's a little bit cheaper and arguably more effective at times, although there's some caveats to that I'm not going to talk about today. You can spray dicamba or extend on XtendFlex beans. However, dicamba is bound by many label restrictions. If the temperature's too high, you can't apply it. If the wind's too low or too high, you can't apply it. You gotta put boundaries on your field next to sensitive crops. Very complicated stuff. And for that reason, us and many other farmers are not using it anymore. Because of the issues with dicamba or Extend, we opt to use Liberty on all of our XtendFlex soybeans. Liberty is a very finicky herbicide. It does not have the same room for error that some of these growth regulator herbicides do in terms of efficacy. I've seen it hit grand slams, so to speak, out in fields, and I've seen it strike out in the same season. It's all about how carefully you apply it. There's some conditions you want to meet if you're going to spray Liberty like we are today. First consideration, which is mainly agronomic, is that you want your weeds to be small, preferably less than 4 inches, especially water hemp. Smaller weeds are easier to kill, and technically it's off-label once the weeds get above 4 inches tall. Occasionally a field will get away from you, especially a new field like this where you're not sure of what kind of weed pressure it has, and you maybe wait a week too long to apply and the weeds get rather large. It's not that these herbicides like Liberty can't kill some of these tall weeds like water hemp. It's just that it's much harder to do and makes all of the following factors I'm about to list even more important. The second factor to successfully applying Liberty or glufosinate is coverage. Because Liberty is a contact, not a systemic herbicide, it is very important that you get adequate coverage of the herbicide across the entire leaf surface of the weeds you're trying to kill. We specifically do two things on this pass to accomplish that goal. First and foremost is using 20 gallons per acre of carrier volume, so 20 gallons of water to dilute the product and give ourselves more of a vehicle to spread the herbicide across the plants. And of course, we also change to a different nozzle. You want a nozzle that can give you finer droplet sizes and preferably different angles of approach in terms of application onto the growing weeds. In this case, we're using the T-Jet twin turbo tips. They spray front and back 60 degrees to each side, creating a very robust overlapping pattern, and on average, said pattern is at a higher pressure, resulting in finer droplets. Crossing a wash right now, so that's what that's from. At 20 gallons per acre, these size 6 twin turbo T-Jet tips are putting out a relatively medium spray pattern. The terminology medium when it comes to droplet size is actually deceiving. Medium is on the smaller size of the spectrum. Of course, there's fine, ultra fine, but a lot of these air inducted tips operate in that coarse range, which is a larger droplet size. We want finer, more of a powder, and of course, because we're doing that, we need to pay a little bit closer attention to drip, but we would never spray when it was too windy anyways. It looks like I'm going to have to take a 30-second TV timeout to spray around another troublesome line of power lines through the middle of the field. I've actually gotten a lot better since last time I sprayed around these poles. I think there is 6 here, maybe 7. I only hit 1 of them, as opposed to the earlier segment of the video where I hit 7 out of 8 of them. Practice makes perfect, I think is what they say. Had to make a quick pit stop for our last fill up of the day. Brother-in-law Nate is headed home. We've only got 40 acres left and I got 55 acres worth in the tank. If I run out at this point, it's on me. See you, Nate. Thanks for the help today. Your check will be in the mail, albeit probably gonna get lost in the mail. Okay, we've talked about applying your herbicides when the plants are small, getting good coverage on them. That's 2 main points. Third is that you want to apply Liberty or glufosinate when it is warm outside, preferably very warm and the sun is shining. Of course, when I make this point, a cloud is rolling by. However, for the last 2 days while I've been putting this on, we've had 90 to 95 degree highs with clear skies. Case in point, look at the forecast for today. We have a low of 63, a high of 90, and a mostly sunny cloud forecast, or I guess a lack of clouds. Oh, they threw in some rain tomorrow. That'll be nice. Of all of the days in the next 10-day forecast, this is the last great day to spray Liberty. I'm not going to say that 50 degrees and an 80 degree high in sunshine is not enough, but I'd prefer to have as much firepower as possible, and the sun is our friend when it comes to Liberty. That's not even to mention the fact that if I wait a week to spray it, the weeds are going to be even bigger and harder to kill. Yesterday and today were, in my opinion, some of the best days so far this season to apply Liberty. It was hot and it was sunny. These water hemp ought to croak over pretty quick. These trees have grown back quite a bit since last time I was through here. We've got about 6 or 7 acres to spray on the back side here, and then we're going to be done for the day. The Haggie's arch nemesis, the stoplight by the Lakeland McDonald's. Everyone close your eyes. I'm just gonna go for it when it's clear. Hey, I recognize this place. Other than today taking longer than anticipated, I really have no complaints. We're back at home base. You can see all of our tractors are parked here. We drove all the way past Shelbyville to Tower Hill. That was that first big field we sprayed. Then we made our way on Route 16 all the way back up to the north side of Mattoon. Came over here and sprayed that 300 plus acre farm. It doesn't show up correctly for some reason, but I promise I did spray it all. Either way, we're done spraying Liberty for now. Probably in the next episode we'll be spraying some more post soybean herbicides, but it won't be Liberty. It'll be Enlist. It's been another hot and sunny one. You couldn't ask for better weather to spray Liberty than this. Alrighty everyone, I'm taking off for the weekend. Allie, Lenny, and I may go pick some strawberries at our local pick your own strawberry patch. I'm not a fan of strawberries, but Lenny seems to love them. It also happens to be like a package deal. You pick your strawberries and you wear out your child at the same time. That's pretty good if you ask me. Probably shouldn't stand under the boom. That's obviously leaking a little bit. Either way, we'll be back at it spraying again the next episode. As always, I greatly appreciate every single one of you continuing to tune in and support the channel. Your viewership means the world to me. Catch you all in the next episode. Until then, make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and comment down below if you have any questions. You know I love to talk about farming. Have a great day, everyone. Peace!